Have you ever had to deal with customer service? It can be sometimes the most excruciating experience, or sometimes the most elevating experience, depending on the customer service care that you get. I remember one time back when I was trying to do DoorDash. For the longest time, I couldn't actually create a DoorDash account because my number was linked to a buddy's account who was using my number to do DoorDash. Because back in the day, you had to have, well, I'm sure it's still like that, but you had to have a phone number to do DoorDash. So for the longest time while I was trying to do it, I just couldn't actually get into my account or get an account until I went through the customer service representatives, and it was a long fought battle, but eventually I got forwarded to DoorDash's customer service escalation team. And that's where I was awarded the experience with Miss Samantha. And Miss Samantha was the gem. You know that? Because I'll tell you what, she fixed my issue, the issue that the outsourced customer service could not fix. But she fixed my issue in like 5 minutes. Something that they couldn't fix in 2 hours. Granted, she talked to me for about 20 extra minutes after that about her children and where they were going to college and how her grandpappy passed away and what was going down at the local church. But those other 5 minutes of that 25-minute phone call was her fixing my problem. So you get those type of experiences with customer service, or more often than not, you get the type of experience that I unfortunately had to go through recently. This experience being one of the major reasons why I haven't been able to film recently. Not that that's too big of a deal. This experience has been excruciating, and it all revolves around one thing that we all know very well, and that is my phone. So to really dive into the weeds of it, about almost 3 months ago or so, I upgraded my phone from the Google Pixel 9 to the Google Pixel 10 Pro Plus. I've never been a super big, like, top of the line phone person, but just out of pretty much circumstance, I've actually had like the new Google Pixel that's come out every year for the past 2 years. I got like the 9 when it first came out, and then I think I upgraded from the 7 to the 9, and then I went from the 9 to the 10. And the reason I did that is with our phone plan, our AT&T, we got less. It was charged less money per month when we upgraded. And this time, when I was offered by my sister, I'm on my family's phone plan, when I was offered to upgrade to have less on my bill, I was like, sure. I wasn't necessarily hurting to get rid of my 9, but I was definitely happy, for an upgrade, especially if it was going to cut the price of my phone plan. So when that went through, I got my new Google Pixel 10 Pro. And I got it in the mail. I set it up normally, and I think and it's been a while. It's been about 3 months now. So forgive me if I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was the very night that I unpackaged it, if not a few days later, that I noticed that there was what seemed to be like burnt pixels at the top of the screen. It was like these 3 little dots that were right above each other at the top left of the screen that would like turn on and turn off and turn on and turn off for variety of reasons. They would turn on and turn off just randomly. And yeah, I noticed that, and I was like, well, that sucks. So I immediately told my sister, and I was like, yo, hey, this phone's defective. And she called AT&T, and AT&T basically was like, no, we can't do anything about it. You need to call Google. So we called Google, and thankfully they were like, okay, well, no worries. The phone's still under warranty. So we just take it back to a manufacturer, or a prescribed phone mechanic. That sounds so dumb. I'm thinking about cars. technician. So how Google, and it works through a company called Assurion, or at least that was the part that we were dealing, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But it is just such a weird and wild concept for how that works. But when you deal with like their warranty, they have obviously, and this is a understandable way to go about it, but they outsource their repairs and stuff locally to local stores, or more in this case, the store that I went to, local corporations, in order to get whoever the customer who's getting their phone repaired, get them like the best and easiest access to a phone repair. And Google is supposed to vet these people, I imagine, and I'm sure there is some type of vetting system. But so Google, they were like, yeah, no worries, it's under warranty. Here is the repair shop that we want you to go to. Go ahead and take it there. So about 3 or 4 days later, we got in with the repair shop. Here is a little snidbit, because there's a lot of little moving parts to this. But one of the other things that happened, which is just one of the things where it's just like, I can't, where do I even begin to seek retribution for that? That sounds like I'm freaking dang about to come out from Ragnarok. Not like that, but this phone, the old Google Pixel 10, I did a little bit I spoiled a little bit right there. Before I was able to get it into the technician, I woke up one morning and it had completely reset itself. It had a black screen, and the crappy thing about that is that I couldn't get the phone. That's the thing. It said that it was corrupted. I couldn't get the phone to actually turn back on and get back to the way that it was, because, and I know that there's probably some smarter way of going about this, and this is my fault. And this is what I mean, where it's like, what do I even do about this? But in my haste and hubris, or maybe I really didn't have any other way to get around it, I just reset the phone, not thinking about all of the photos I didn't have backed up. A bunch of and again, this is my fault in this case, but a bunch of photos that were actually of people that I really cared about, like my best friend who had passed away. And so that just sucked. And beyond that, the phone was just glitching. It had a bunch of glitches. So I was, only about 3 or 4 days in of getting this phone, I was already turning it into Google, being like, hey, there's a problem. And more than just the screen problem, there seems to be a problem with the system. So we took it into a local repair shop to where I live, and I'm not going to tell all of this in its full entirety, because I think that it should be reserved for another video. Because I have actually had 2 separate encounters with phone people but I've had 2 separate encounters with people, with phone technicians, phone repair places, that have both ended in me having to almost fight my way out of the door. It's been, I don't know what it is with the area that I live in. I don't know if there's a technicians guild or something like that, but I just have seemed to get on the wrong side of them, because it has been a debacle. But the long and short of the technician that Google sent us to is, when we first gave them the phone, they repaired it, but they repaired the screen improperly. At the top of the screen there was glue that seemed to not be down fully. I'm not a technician, so I don't know maybe the jargon, but they're definitely, it just wasn't, the screen at the top wasn't on all the way. I immediately went back in when I noticed it, and I showed it, and they were like, okay. And this is the independent technician that's contracted by Google. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to repair it again. So I had to wait another week beyond that point for them to order another Google screen. And when they got it back in, I brought it back in for repair, and they refused to replace the screen because there were scratches on it. There was like normal fiber scratches, which, and I'm not going to talk about the actual corporation's name, because like I said, I'd love to make a video actually just about my experiences with with technicians in my local town, because it's a riot. But Another thing is, and again, this is alleged. I'm not like saying this anything for sure, but I will say that the screen that I got on the original Google Pixel 10, and I believe they're called like Gorilla Glass or something like that. It seemed to be really good. I'm a construction worker on my my actual day job. So, and I used Google Pixel almost my entire teenagehood as like the main phone brand that I had, because that was just what was always given to me by my like family plan, and so they've always been decently scratch resistant. I've only had to have my Pixel screen replaced twice. I had it, and this is the other time that I had to deal with a Google technician, and they were also. Or a Google contracted technician, and they were also refused to fix an issue that they caused on the screen, and they also used aftermarket parts. And that one was provable, but that store later shut down. But like I said, that's a story for another time. But what I'm trying to say here is that the screen that they put on my phone originally, so the screen that they didn't put on properly, it just scratched super duper easily. I mean, like almost instantly when I got it. I remember the first day that I got it, and like I had just got scratched up from being in my pocket, taking it back from, because of course, and again, at the end of the day, some of these things that you just take into your own responsibility. I'm not gonna be like, I did ask them, but I didn't, but either way, I took it home that day, and I remember putting it in my pocket because they were like, you want us to put a screen protector on it? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna have you put a $15 screen protector on it when it's a broke screen, you didn't put it on properly, so we're gonna have you guys put a new one on. But either way, all I'm trying to say is I don't feel like the phone screens that they put on, this is my subjective opinion, are the phone screens that they say they put on. The long and short of that is, when we came back the next time when they had the new phone screen that they were going to put on, because of the fiber scratches on the phone, they refused to replace the phone screen. We battled with them, but they quickly took it to oh, this isn't us, this is Google, blah, 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 we're just not going to fix it. And we had dealt with their corporate, but at this point it had been a month and now my phone was messed up in a whole different area now. So we were just like, okay, well, we contacted Google again, and Google was like, oh, okay, well, no problem. Why don't you just send it in to us and we will repair it for you? Now, we've also, when we upgraded the phone, my sister had gotten the 1 year all good warranty, where from the way that she tells it, no matter what happens, the phone was going to get repaired. So that was it was a warranty where it's no matter what, they repair the phone if it's damaged. So after that debacle, which took about 2 weeks with the independent technician, we sent it in and waited for about a week for them to do an inspection and stuff like that. And they finally got back to us about a weekend, and they're like, hey, there's a crack on the screen, and we can't repair the phone. At this point, I was pretty exhausted of this process. I had spent hours on the phone with AT&T in the beginning. I'd spent hours on the phone getting it set up to get to a technician. I had spent days and time, dealing with the technicians and stuff like that, and going back and forth with them to try to fix it. Finally, I'd got it here, and now I had sent it off, so it was no longer in my hands. And because of that, I had to buy a good old track phone. So real quick, let's take a small detour and talk about track phones. I don't know. So when I went into Walmart, I had to get a track phone, and there was a lady there. It was a Straight Talk. So they have Straight Talk wireless track phones representatives in the Walmart. So if you go there, they'll be standing in the the technology aisle, or what technology aisle, and they'll show you and tell you the phone. Unfortunately, the technician that I got was a little bit more interested in whatever she was doing on her, most likely Straight Talk wireless phone, and, not me. But eventually, after standing by the case and looking like a scared giraffe, she eventually did come up and give me a pretty damn good recommendation on what phone I should get, because I got a burner track phone for $50, and I got a month plan included. And while that phone was the bane of my existence. The reason I couldn't film just a horrible laggy phone, which again, I know that sounds really, like, oh, boo-hoo. Fair enough. And I was more than okay with the phone. It was not the end of the world. All of this was not the end of the world. But if anybody out there knows what it's like to deal with customer representatives that are primarily outsourced, and give you the rigmarole, then you can probably understand why I'm so exhausted when it comes to this process. But anyways, I did get a Straight Talk wireless phone for pretty cheap. So by this point that it was sent off to Google, and they had denied the repair because of the crack on the phone, I had already bought a whole nother phone and was using it for the time being. And I was pretty exhausted. I was just like, okay, you know what? What are my options then? What if you guys can't repair it? What can we do? And this was the options that they gave me. They were like, we can send you the phone back in the way that it is. So now it has damage from the independent technician, and it has burnt pixels on the screen, and it's glitching. It shut down, deleting pictures off of my phone. And now, allegedly, it has a crack in the screen. So, I don't know. It was sucking pretty bad. But I was like, okay, well, so you can send it back in its state. What's the other option? And the other option that they gave me was you could just buy a whole new phone. They were like, it was like two bubbles. And listen, I live a good life. I have family who love me. I have a roof over my head. I'm very happy to be where I'm at. But how privileged of a world do you have to live in where your two options are take the phone back or buy a whole new $800 phone? Those were the only two options. They were like, the two bubbles, and one was like, return item. Second bubble, buy new item, market price $860. And I was like, brother, I upgraded this for free, and it was supposed to be cheap on my phone plan, which didn't even I felt like that shit was suspicious. When I was told that, I was like, I don't know, that doesn't seem right to me. Well, little did I know, they were treating that stuff like a Sunday Scoopy. Like you're out on the sidewalk and your Scoopy falls out of your hand and hits the ground, and you can go buy another one for 50 cents. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, you can eat that Scoopy on the ground that's full of dirt, or it's only 50 cents. You could buy a whole nother one. So obviously we couldn't take the option of buying a whole new phone again. So we were just like, whatever. I was like, I don't know. But what I was actually thinking, I was like, whatever. Let's just get the phone back, and I'll take it to an independent technician. Which of course I'm scared of. The damn Klan is gonna come after me. The Guild, I should not the Klan, the Guild. Let me not say that. Let me say the K word. But I was like, whatever, just return it back to us. So they're like, okay, and they gave us a date of when it was going to be shipped, and they gave us a date of when it was going to show up. So we were like, okay, and it was about a week down the line. So we waited to that week. Nothing showed up. I checked the tracking and stuff like that to find out that the tracking details led to nothing, and I should have checked it sooner. But by this process, I had already more or less, and this is my own stupidity, moved on with my life. This other phone was working decent enough for me to access the stuff that I need on my life, and this was already a big debacle amongst a bunch of other things that have happened recently. So I was just like, whatever, they're sending it back. I'm sure it'll be on the way. They said it'll be back by this date, and I never checked to add the actual tracking details, which I should have. Lo and behold, to find out when I did, there was none. So we called Google and we're like, hey, where's the package at? It's been, a day or two after the date. And they were like, oh, it should be coming. Just wait a little bit longer. If it's not there in the mail, contact us again. So we waited a little bit longer. We contacted them again, and they were like, oh, well, we'll go ahead and call the warehouse and stuff like that. And we were like, okay. So we were waiting the warehouse. or they were contacting the warehouse or whatever. And again, dealing throughout this process, I hadn't dealt with this exactly. This was my sister dealing with them during this, but she apparently was like, yeah, they're just looking for it. All for it to come out that they were like, oh, we can't find it. And we were like, oh, what do you mean? And this had been, by this point, this again had been another about 2 weeks. So we're like 2 months, 2.5 months into, a little bit less maybe, into this process. And they're like, yeah, no, we can't find it. So my sister had actually went above and beyond for this whole process. And when she got the 1-year warranty, and I've never had a history of losing my phones or anything like that, but she had actually bought, not only had she bought the 1-year warranty, she had bought the Pixel Care Plus theft and loss prevention. So when they had contacted us the last time, the gist of it was that they had shipped it out. It was just lost in transit. So we asked them, what are our options? And they told us because it left the facility, they can't really do much about it. So we need to call UPS. That's where we were like, okay, no, no. We were like, we're going to file it lost because that's what it is. It's lost in transit. And we don't know where it's at. And it's been a few months now. So we did. And you won't believe it. After about 2 or 3 months of them giving us lollygagging responses and 2-day late emails and stuff like that, and us having to call and wade through the same entry, and it got to a point where like me and my sister were like having to, like twin mastermind this, where we were like psychologically planning our phone calls in order to get the best response time. After all of that, my sister was like, okay, well, turns out I actually have a theft and loss that for a year that came with the warranty. So I'm going to report it lost. When that happened, we got switched over to, because again, all of this customer service is outsourced. It is still customer service that now they have the ability to use the number. It's still a California number. If anybody's ever dealt with Google, I think it's like Mount View, California. That's where these numbers are based out of, and most of their, I think Google's like HQ. But when you're talking to the person, you can hear the call center. You can hear, all of the like stuff going on, which is usually a telltale sign of outsourced customer service. But So when we had filed for that loss, it got switched over to the Pixel Care Plus team. I'll tell you what, the attentiveness of this team changed, the drastic change in their attentiveness relative to what we were dealing with in the past. Just dealing with them trying to repair it was like night and day. It was like the night man and the day man. Okay. When we reported it lost, we immediately got, like the day after, we got an email and then a phone call from the Google Pixel Care team. And that is where kind of the last little bit of this escapade arc ends. They call me and they start asking me questions and stuff like that, which I anticipated this call. My sister told me that they were going to call me. So, I just answered their questions. And I talked with the first guy for about an hour straight. And he was asking me pretty basic questions like, oh, what's the IME number? When do you think you lost it? What's the phone number? How do you think you, like, basically asking me a lot of repetitive questions too. Like I swear to gosh, he asked me how I lost it and stuff like that. And again, we had a very full conversation to the best of our ability about where and how we lost it. And then finally at the end, he goes, okay, well, I'm going to escalate this to our escalation team. I love that. The escalation team, like I can just, like, you know what I'm saying? I can just imagine 4 dudes in the back, with the headset and the mics, and they just got, that look on them, and a bag of Dorito chips sitting in front of them. The door busts open, and they're just like, we need them. The escalation team. Well, I got promoted to them. But we hit a roadblock. In this final call, things just immediately went off the rails, and it wasn't that bad, but sorry, it's getting hot in here. Whew. He calls me back, so he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna escalate this. No, my bad. I'm so sorry. I've messed up. Before he gives me to the escalation team, he's actually like, I'm going to go ahead and put a ticket in, and we're going to start an investigation to try to find where your phone's at. Which was funny because the whole point of like loss and theft and stuff like that is that they're supposed to like replace the phone or whatever. But I guess like the first bit is that, you know, they have to figure out if the phone's actually lost. So that's fair. So like, we're going to launch an investigation to find where the phone's at. I was like, okay, sure, no worries. So that was about 20-30 minutes in the phone call. He hangs up. The hour phone call doesn't come till later. He calls me back about an hour later after that. And he's like, hello. So I actually haven't started the investigation. I was like, okay, well, you love that. And he's like, I actually want to ask you a few more questions. And I immediately knew where this was going. I was like, oh, okay. You think that I still have the phone. And I didn't say that outright, but I could just feel it in my jellies because of the way that he was, you know, calling me back. And then he started asking questions of the more regard of like, oh, when was the last time you seen the phone? You know, when was the last time you used the phone? And I was like, I'm telling you, when I shipped it off back to Google. And he asked like if we had called UPS and stuff like that. And I was like, no. And we had been dealing with this for a while. And I tried to explain the whole rigmarole of all the stuff that had led us there. And finally, at the end, it was about an hour conversation of me just giving him more information and telling him what had led me there. He goes, Mr. Woodworth, do you have the phone? And literally verbatim, more or less, like he was like, do you have the phone? And I was like, in my possession? No, I don't. And he was like, oh, that makes so much more sense now. Listen, I don't know if they were trying to pull a 120 or 140 IQ right there, where they were like, where I was just going to go, yeah, you know what I do? Actually, I do have the phone. Mind you, I had explained to him that I had a track phone and I was calling off of a different number. But yeah, if I was just like, oh my God, you are so right. I have the phone right here. After I tell him that, that's where I get sent to the escalation team. So after the first hour on the phone with them, they send me to the escalation team. And I wait for a little bit, and he calls me on hold, and then it was pretty late at that point, so he calls me back and he's like, hey, you know, I don't think they're going to be able to be there today. If you'd like, they can call you back tomorrow. And I was like, yes, that's fine. You can call me back tomorrow. And so they did at the ripe early, like 9-10 o'clock in the morning, which, you know, was not, you know, too early for me, but I don't know what if there's a time difference for where they're at. But yeah, they called me back, and this time it was a different person. So this is like our first like kind of antagonist, protagonist, depending on how you want to see this. So I first started dealing with Ryan, and Ryan was like the real investigator, it felt like. So it seemed like the same outsourced customer service center, because the person who was dealing with me was just taking the headset from whoever was talking to me last. But his name was Ryan, and he talked to me again for about an hour, getting kind of like the final details. And this time he was like wanting more like hard proof. He wanted me to like send emails and stuff like that of talking to Google and stuff in the past, which we did, and we sent all that and got that over to him, which took a while because, you know, dealing with that back and forth. This is something that I hate. I don't understand how in the world a corporation can't go back through their own emails. I understand that they are sending out vastly more emails than I am sending out, and that changes, you know, their extent to be able to like check them. But why is it that you have no record of the, like, is there no, like, listen, I know you're building data files on me. How is there no record of the damn emails that we've sent back and forth to one another? But so Ryan was the main guy. Ryan was the investigator, and I sent him all of the emails and stuff like that. And he just more or less kept trying to deflect and say a bunch of different things like, oh, well, you know, I can't even, because it's been a while. But he was saying some stuff, you know, like After we got done sending the emails, he was like, okay, well, what we need to do is try to find your phone. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's kind of why I'm here. So, if we can find the phone, that's where we want to go. And he was like, okay, well, let's call UPS. And I was like, yeah. If that's what you guys want to do, you guys want to get into contact with UPS. And he was like, oh, no, you should call UPS. And we were like, no, no, we want, we would like you under this, we're dealing with the Pixel Care and stuff like that. You guys shipped it out and you don't gave us tracking details. So after running that rigmarole with him a few times, and again, him more or less accusing us of still having the phone, and not outright, but in a very conspicuous, or not conspicuous, but in a very sly way, trying to get me to trip up on weird stuff. He finally goes, okay. And again, by this point, I thought this had to be the investigation. At the end of, again, this hour phone call the next day, I think that phone call had went on for 2 hours, or an hour and 40 minutes or something like that. It was quite some time. And a lot of it was spent on hold, to be fair. He's like, okay, Mr. Woodworth, we're going to, I think he literally said we're going to send this to the escalation team. I swear. I think he said that we were going to send this to the new team. He's like, but this time we're going to call people and call UPS, and which I was like, yes. They're like, we're going to call UPS and find out, and see if we can't find out where the phone's at. Why in the world I had to battle with the Pixel Care and stuff like that to get them to do their job is absolutely crazy. Again, where this all ends up is quite nominal, but what can you say? So he's like, yeah, we're gonna investigate this, and we'll send you an email a little bit after this to kind of figure everything out. So the next day I waited, no response. The next day I waited, no response. But third time's the charm. On the next day, I got an email from the Google team with tracking details saying that they had found my phone and they were sending it back to me. I was excited, to say the least. I of course was upset still that the phone was going to be in the condition that it was, but just getting it back was a victory at this point. So I was excited to get the phone back. And the tracking details worked this time. They had actual shipping details, and all that good nonsense. So I emailed them at this, and I asked for two things. One, I asked for prompt shipping details, which they gave me. That was the final email, and I asked them just for a explanation on why all of this had happened. I knew the reason, and again, I don't know. I'm not, I'm not omnipotent. I can't say that. Don't bully me. Omnipotent. But I have a pretty good feeling the reason I spent 2 hours on the phone wasn't because that they were actually investigating where my phone was. I doubt they probably spent 10 minutes on the phone with UPS or wherever the heck they ended up finding my phone, if they found it at all. Foreshadowing. What it felt like to me is that they were investigating me. It felt like those 2 hours were basically an investigation of whether or not trying to pull something out of me. And I hate to out myself here, but funny enough, I actually asked Gemini, just for shits and giggies, what I should say to the customer service in order to navigate this process better. And they were like, focus on them losing the phone in transit, because that way they can't deflect it, because they're going to try to deflect it. Granted, that's just a general broad overview by less and best AI. So that's probably just taking credit from dealing with all customer service. But I just thought it was funny because I was like, oh, okay, haha, Google snitching on itself just out of a joke. And then that's exactly what I had to go through, with 2 hours of dealing with what felt like an investigation. But it finally ended up, I asked them in the last email, I said, hey, I just want an explanation of what was done to see this resolved. I would like to see how and what really came out of all of this, just so that I can know why I spent 2 hours on the phone. I didn't say that part, but that's how I felt, just so I could know why I spent 2 hours on the phone doing what I did. And they emailed me back. They were like, well, we hope you get your phone soon. I was like, hold on there, Ryan. And it's like, you didn't answer my question. And when I started pressing them, this is where John came in, and he was like, hello. And he didn't even announce himself at first. I had to actually email him back to get him to say his name. But they just emailed me again, the tracking details, literally completely ignoring what I said. Emailed them again. I was like, hey, I'm looking for a response, to my previous question about, asking for, some explanation on why this has happened and why my phone was lost, etc. Nothing. Again, sent me back a blank. And this time, but this time when they sent me back, they sent me back. He told me his name was John, because I was like, hey, I don't know who the person in the last email was, but they said they were taking over for Ryan. And of course, by this point, I still hadn't had my phone. But after that, I just ended up. That was like, okay, I'm done emailing them. Let's just wait for our phone. But ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long road. So where does it lead? After probably about 3 months in total, I think it started in early April. Well, the whole shebang of it actually. So yeah, it had been like 3 or 4 months. Started before that, but I had to ship the phone out in early April when I got to Google, and we just finished this up here now in June. So it has been, a long process. But where did it end up? Well, at the very end of it, I got a new phone. So just yesterday, something came in the mail, and I was like, oh no, it's my phone. And again, I was just excited to get it back. I opened it up. You won't believe it. The phone looked and seems brand new. No burnt pixel in the screen, no damage at the top of the phone, which I was like, thank gosh. I was like, oh my Lord. That's the burnt pixel would come on and off, it would come on and off, but the damage at the top of the screen was where the screen wasn't put on correctly. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to, that's how that is for the rest. But boys, I opened it up, ladies and gents, crystal clean. Perfect. I don't know what the boys and Google outsourced customer service, John, Ryan, and Rashek did, but they hooked a brother up. That's all I'm going to say. I was literally jumping at the moon. I'm not that big of a tech guy. The only reason I've kept up with the Googles is because it was just under the phone plan and had always been a cheaper and easier alternative, kind of like when people keep turning in their trading in a vehicle. At least that's how it's explained to me. I just paid the bill. I don't ask for the technicals. But just to have this mean something and not be for nothing. Oh my Lord. I was jumping for joy. Now here, there's still kickers. Another really wild thing when it comes to Google's, policy on returns and repairs and stuff like that is, when they get you back your phone and they're going to do a repair on your phone, they have not only if your phone, if you do it under loss or theft, or if you just get it sent in on repair, they can just give you back a new phone, but that new phone is and most likely will be refurbished. It'll be a refurbished Google. And so this very well could be a refurbished Google Pixel 10, which again, I don't necessarily care. But if you were thinking about it on principle, how in the world is it fair for me to send you a brand new phone and then you send me back a refurbished phone? But with that even in mind, I was just excited to have my phone back and have a new phone back. So yeah, that is not what they said that they were going to. I double checked the email at that point just to see, and sure enough, they said, Oh, we found your original phone. We're going to be sending your original phone back to you. So I was just fully on lock that the process had all been for nothing. And by this point, I had bought another month of my Straight Talk wireless plan. So I was like 40 or not 40, like $80 into the hole with that, and it was crazy. But at the end of all of it, I got my phone back. And more importantly, I got a brand new phone, or at least a refurbished phone. So that's that. I know that's not really the most interesting story. To be fair, there are some more like interesting parts to it, but I don't know. If this video is probably already going to be like 30 minutes long, just talking about all this. But this had literally just been something that I had been dealing with for the past months, and I kind of want to just like give my experience with the Google team and the Google Pixel Care team. Here's the cons. Dealing with the Google customer service, it's all outsourced. Every team that you deal with, whether you're dealing with their warranty team, which they like to categorize themselves, so there's a bunch of different teams, but the warranty team, the actual service team, the escalation team, the Pixel Care team, whoever you're dealing with, it is all outsourced customer service. I know that that's not anything new. And I know that I'm not only late to the punch, but also standing on a soapbox when I complain about it. But man, I'm a stand on a soapbox. It sucks. Oh, it sucks, dealing with it. We all wish that we could have, because like I said at the beginning of the video, customer service is something that can kind of, really take you up or really take you down. And dealing with Google, where every part of their customer service is outsourced to a different company. And to actually talk more about it, a lot of different parts of what Google provides in their services. And granted, at the end of the day, having those services were the only way that I ended up getting a new phone back, which that's the catch-22 there. But most of the services beyond, Google itself, I imagine, the OS is outsourced. Their insurance is, and their warranty goes through something that's called, Asurion. And I'm pretty sure they're most likely the ones who then handle the customer care, and they're the ones who are able to outsource it. Mind you, all of the numbers, emails, and texts come from Google numbers, emails, and text messages. So they're all representative under Google. So I don't know if that still makes them contractors or if that makes them a whole part of Google services. I got, you get over it, not in like the emotional sense, because that's not obviously what I mean. But when, stuff like this, same way that like if, something went wrong with your car, don't even start. Or if something went wrong with your house, you find the most practical way to deal with it, and you deal with it. But phones are, very integrated these days into our lives. My banking, my power, my paying my water bill, of course, keeping in contact with people that I know. There's people that I know who thought that I cut them off, and I wasn't talking to them anymore for the reasons of me not having my phone. So it's a practical thing. You deal with it. You get a track phone, but it is a very integral or integrated part of our lives. So it just made it more difficult. But that was that. We hate outsourcing, but what are you gonna do? Because at the end of the day, I got a brand new phone back, and I don't know how. I don't know how it worked out, but I'm happy because that means a variety of things. One of them being that I can make videos. So that's nice. With that said, there's going to be more videos on the way. I've actually already filmed a few. This one was just one that I kind of wanted to make as my first video. And I had already filmed it, but I just decided to refilm it. Still not going to be any better, but I think it might be a little bit more coherent than the last time. But, just giving y'all a heads up, this is hopefully me coming back. Of course, this is nothing special or anything like that. It's just me putting stuff online and talking about stuff. So, but I do have some other videos already filmed. We're going to be talking about birthday shenanigans, which I don't think, looking back on it, I don't think it's actually going to be the most interesting thing, but this is not the most interesting thing. Nothing that I do is going to be interesting until I make it interesting, but I got to do it in the first place. So we're going to be talking about birthday shenanigans. This has brought up so many things. I'm thinking about the dang the technicians in the place that I live. You know, you gotta be careful with that. Not be careful, but I gotta make a video about that. You gotta be careful about going there, man. They're crazy. You're dealing with crazy people down there. But I want to make something about that. But the only video that I have filmed so far, like I said, the one about the birthday shenanigans, which I'm in the process of editing. So yeah, you know, I got some stuff to talk about. Just more, you know, weird and wacky stories. I flap my lips, and so hopefully you can feel the airwaves. Thank you for watching. If you got this far, you are a gem. Hopefully your experiences with customer service have been and are going to be a lot better. My recommendation is that deal with customer service people over the phone, and this is something that dealing throughout the process, and mind you, I've made numerous hour calls now. If you would deal with them, I mean, as nice but as persistent as possible. That's how you do it. If you really want to get in with customer care, and I think that's really how I ended up getting a new phone, was that I was just like, if they asked me, I was like, okay, sure, let's do this. Whatever you need, we'll get it there. Yeah, I'll send you that. Oh, I'll get you that. Yep, sure. But you just got to keep being persistent with them. And this is actually something that I haven't mentioned. I know I've come in here to the end. And again, this video is probably like 45 minutes or something. Gosh. But they actually tried halfway through the process. Ryan tried to get me to close the ticket. So when he was sending me over to the escalation team, he's like, okay, so the first thing, and like, I'm surprised I didn't talk about this, but he was like, the first thing that I need you to do is that I need you to go ahead and close the ticket in Google Pixel Care. And I was like, no, I don't think we will. You know, I still want to keep it open because, you know, the phone's still lost. And he was like, oh, okay, that's okay then. And I was like, yeah, okay. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna close it if I don't have the ticket. And I'm just saying, I don't know how it all ended out, but they told me they were giving me my original phone back, and I got a Google Pixel 10 Pro refurbished or possibly new. Who knows? I don't care. But with all that said, good luck. Good luck with your customer care service. And to Google, I want you to know that thank you for a new phone. It's all good. Water under the bridge. Bygones are bygones. I just wanted a phone back. So, you know, what are you going to do? But as always, we are Mr. Podigy. I hope to see you in the next video.